The war turned 3 days after the star collapsed. Without the Queen Mind's coordination, the Ravager swarms became fractured. They fought each other as often as they fought the collective. Ships that once moved with terrible purpose now wandered aimlessly. The tide had shifted. Captain Hana stood on the bridge of the flagship watching reports flood in. Victory after victory, the Ravagers were in full retreat. Worlds that had been hours from falling were now being liberated. The impossible had happened, all because of one human, she said quietly to Scholar Day, who floated beside her, and 19 others who followed him. Day reminded her, "Do not forget their sacrifice." The mission had been declared a total loss. No signals, no survivors. The entire team presumed dead. Hana had written the letters to their families herself. Each one felt like a small death. Memorials were being planned. Statues commissioned. The collective wanted to honor its heroes, especially Minho, the last human who had given everything to save a civilization that had once destroyed his own. "It seems wrong," Hana said. "He saved us and we do not even have a body to bury." "Perhaps that is fitting," Day said. "Humans always were more legend than reality. Now he joins the myths he came from." 3 weeks after the mission, a damaged Ravager ship appeared at the edge of collective space. It was broadcasting a human distress code, the same one that had led them to the cryo station months ago. Hana's ship was closest. They approached cautiously, weapons ready. The Ravager vessel was barely functional. Hull breached in a dozen places. Life support failing. It should not have made it this far. They boarded carefully. Inside they found bodies. Ravagers all dead. And in the command center, slumped over the controls, they found Minho. He was unconscious. Badly wounded. Burns covered half his body, but his heart was still beating. "Get him to medical," Hana ordered. "Now." Dr. Isul worked for 3 days straight. Minho's injuries should have killed him several times over. But humans were resilient. They had evolved to survive. When Minho finally opened his eyes, he found himself in a clean white room. Medical equipment surrounded him. For a moment he thought he was back on the cryo station. Then he remembered. The mission, the star, the explosion. "You are alive." Isul's voice came from beside him. Her form glowed with relief. "We thought you were dead." "I thought so too," Minho said. His voice was rough. "The others?" Isul's colors dimmed. "You were the only survivor." Minho closed his eyes. He had known, but hearing it confirmed still hurt. Bora, Hyun, Taeyang, all gone, just like his own people, dead because they followed him into hell. "The mission succeeded," Isul said gently. "The Ravagers are broken. We are winning. Because of you." "Because of all of us," Minho corrected. "I just lived. Recovery took weeks." Minho's body healed, but slowly. Humans were durable, but they had limits. During that time, the collective celebrated. Parades in the streets. Victory declarations from every world. The war was not over, but its ending was inevitable. When Minho was finally well enough to leave medical, he found the galaxy had changed. Everywhere he went, people stared. Some with gratitude, some with fear, all with awe. He was the human warrior, the living legend. The last of a terrible, magnificent race. He hated it. The council called him to the chambers. The same place where months ago they had debated whether his people had even existed. Now they wanted to honor him. "The collective owes you a debt that can never be repaid," the council leader said. A Drouth elder named Saman, her scales white with age. "Name your reward. Anything within our power is yours." Minho stood before them, feeling the weight of countless eyes. "I want the truth," he said. "About what happened to my people. The real story, not the myths you tell yourselves." The chamber fell silent. Saman's expression became guarded. "Some truths are better left buried." "Not this one," Minho said firmly. "You owe humanity that much. We saved you. Now tell us what you did." Saman was quiet for a long moment. Then she nodded. "Very well. Scholar Day has been researching this. He may share his findings." Day floated forward. His form pulsed with colors that suggested discomfort. "The records were deliberately obscured, but I found fragments, testimonies, classified documents. The truth is complicated." "Truth usually is," Minho said. 400 years ago, humanity was the dominant military power," Day began. "You had fought the Ravagers to a standstill. You had defeated 3 other hostile species. You were respected and feared. The collective grew concerned. Concerned? Minho's voice was cold. Humans were too good at war, Day continued. You adapted too quickly. You never stopped improving. Some members of the collective believed that eventually, humans would turn on us, that your warrior culture would demand new enemies once external threats were eliminated. So you eliminated us first, Minho said. Preemptive genocide. It was not the entire collective, Soman interjected. A faction. They acted in secret. By the time the rest of us discovered what was happening, it was too late. Human colonies were burning. Your fleets were sabotaged. Your homeworld was... She could not finish. Destroyed, Minho finished for her. Earth is gone? Day nodded sadly. Yes. The faction used a weapon that destabilized the planet's core. They claimed it was necessary. That humans were too dangerous to exist. Minho felt something break inside him. He had known his people were dead. But learning that Earth itself was gone, that nothing remained, hurt in ways he had not anticipated. And what happened to this faction? Minho asked quietly. They were tried and executed, Soman said. When the full collective learned what they had done, there was outrage. But the damage was done. Humanity was gone. The shame was so great that we rewrote the history, made humans into myths, told ourselves you had died naturally. It was cowardice. I am sorry. Minho laughed, but there was no humor in it. Sorry, you are sorry. He looked around the chamber. My entire species, trillions of people, gone because you were afraid of what we might do. And you're sorry. We cannot undo the past, Soman said. But we can honor the truth now. We will tell the story correctly. Humanity will be remembered as they truly were. And what were we? Minho asked. Warriors, monsters, saviors, all of those things, Day said softly. And more. You were people, complicated and flawed and magnificent, like all people. Minho stood silently for a moment. Then he spoke. I want access to all human records. Everything you have. I want to collect it, preserve it, so that even if we are gone, our story survives. Granted, Soman said immediately. And I want a ship, Minho continued. Long range. Capable of deep space exploration. Where will you go? Hana asked from the council floor. To look for survivors, Minho said. The faction thought they killed us all. But humans are stubborn. Maybe some escaped. Found hidden colonies beyond your borders. I have to know. That could take years, Soman said. Decades. I have time, Minho replied. What else am I going to do? They gave him a ship. A good one. With advanced sensors and supplies for years of travel. They also gave him something else. A monument on the collective capital world. A memorial to humanity. It listed every known human name. Every colony. Every ship. The truth carved in stone. Minho visited it before he left. He stood before the wall of names looking for ones he recognized. Friends, family, people he had loved and lost. They were all there. I will find them, he whispered to the stone. If any of us survived, I will find them. Day appeared beside him. I have compiled all human records into your ship's database. Music, literature, history, science, everything we could recover. You carry humanity's legacy with you now. Heavy cargo, Minho said. The heaviest, Day agreed, but someone must carry it. Before departure, Hana came to see him off. The Drouth captain looked at him with something that might have been sadness. You could stay, Hana said. Help us rebuild. You would be honored, celebrated. I am not looking for honor, Minho said. I am looking for home. What if you do not find anything? Hana asked. What if you are truly the last? Minho considered the question. Then I am still the last. But at least I will know. At least I will have tried. He paused. Humans do not give up. Even when we should. Especially when we should. It is what makes us human. The ship launched at dawn. Minho set course for the unknown regions beyond the galactic rim. Places where refugees might hide. Where human stubbornness might have planted secret seeds. For weeks there was nothing. Empty space. Dead worlds. No signs of life. Then 3 months into the journey, his sensors detected something. A signal. Faint. Old frequency. Human origin. Minho's hands shook as he changed course. It could be nothing. A ghost signal. A malfunction. But it could also be everything. He approached the source carefully. A small moon orbiting a red dwarf. Hidden. Isolated. Perfect for a colony that did not want to be found. As he entered orbit, his communication panel activated. A voice came through, female, speaking in a language that had been dead for 400 years. Speaking in Korean. Unknown vessel, identify yourself. Minho felt tears on his face.
He had not cried since waking from cryo.
But now, hearing his own language, his own people, he could not stop. This is Sergeant Minho, he said in Korean. 7th Expeditionary Fleet, Human Coalition Defense Force requesting permission to land. There was a long pause. Then the voice spoke again and he could hear the emotion in it. The stealth ship was small, designed to slip through sensor nets undetected. It carried a crew of 20, all volunteers, all trained by Minho in the brutal efficiency of human warfare. They knew this was a one-way mission. None of them expected to return. Lieutenant Bora checked her weapons for the 3rd time. The Drouth soldier had changed over the past weeks. Training with Minho had stripped away her illusions about war. She was harder now, colder. Her scales had darkened from stress, but her eyes were clear. Nervous? Asked Taeyang, a Velir scout sitting beside her. The insectoid was smaller than most of his species, which made him perfect for reconnaissance. His mandibles clicked softly, a habit he had when anxious. Terrified, Bora admitted, but Minho says fear is just chemistry. We function through it. Minho says many things, Taeyang replied. I wonder if he truly believes them, or if he just needs us to believe them. At the front of the ship, Minho studied the navigation charts. Ravager space was vast, a region of consumed worlds and dying stars. Intelligence suggested the Queen Mind was located deep in the core, protected by millions of drones. Getting there would require passing through the most concentrated Ravager forces in the galaxy. Hyun approached him. The Drouth commander had insisted on joining the mission, despite Hana's objections. We are approaching the border. Once we cross, there is no support, no rescue. I know, Minho said simply. Why are you doing this? Hyun asked. You owe us nothing. Your people are dead. You could have just waited out the war in comfort. Minho was quiet for a moment. I am doing this because I am still a soldier. Soldiers do not get to quit just because the war became inconvenient. He glanced at Hyun. And maybe I want to prove that humans were worth remembering. They crossed into Ravager space 6 hours later. The ship's stealth system strained to mask their presence. Around them, space was filled with enemy vessels, organic ships that pulsed with unnatural life. They moved in swarms, following patterns that suggested terrible intelligence. First contact in 3, 2, the pilot began. A Ravager scout ship changed course, moving toward them. Their stealth had failed. All power to engines, Minho ordered calmly. Get us into the asteroid field. We use cover. The ship dove toward a cluster of dead rocks, Ravager scouts following. The asteroids were the remains of a destroyed planet, torn apart by the swarm years ago. The pilot weaved between them with desperate skill. We cannot outrun them forever, the pilot said. We do not need to, Minho replied. He turned to Taeyang. Are the mines ready? The Velir nodded. Deployed and armed, the Ravager scouts entered the asteroid field. The mines were small, barely detectable. Human design from schematics Minho had provided. They did not explode on contact. They waited, letting the enemy pass. Then they detonated simultaneously, creating a chain reaction. The asteroid field erupted. Rocks became shrapnel. The Ravager scouts were shredded. The blast was large enough to mask the stealth ship's escape. First blood, Minho said. Now they know we are here. The mission became a nightmare of close calls and desperate fights. They could not engage the Ravagers directly. Instead, they struck and vanished. They mined supply routes. They hit isolated outposts. They made the Ravagers afraid of empty space. Casualties mounted. A firefight at a refueling station cost them 3 soldiers. An ambush took 2 more. Every day the team became smaller. During a brief rest on a dead moon, Bora found Minho sitting alone. He was cleaning his rifle, the repetitive action seeming to calm him. We have lost half the team, Bora said. Is this worth it? Minho did not stop cleaning his weapon. War is not about worth. It is about necessity. We do this because not doing it means extinction. But we are dying, Bora said. One by one, we are being killed. Yes, Minho agreed. That is what soldiers do. We die so others do not have to. That is the contract we signed when we put on these uniforms. Bora's tail lashed in frustration. How can you be so calm about it? Minho finally looked at her. I am not calm. I'm terrified. Every day, every fight, I think this will be the one that kills me. But I do it anyway because fear does not excuse failure. He went back to cleaning his rifle. Humans had a saying, "Courage is not the absence of fear. It is action in spite of fear." You are brave, Bora. You are here. That is enough. They pushed deeper into Ravager space. Intelligence was gathered from captured drones. Taeyang proved invaluable, his small size and natural camouflage allowing him to infiltrate positions others could not reach. Slowly, painfully, they pieced together the Queen Mind's location. It was in a system that had once held 5 inhabited worlds. Now it held only the Queen Mind and her endless children, billions of Ravagers in a single system, all serving one terrible intelligence. "This is impossible," Hyun said, looking at the scans. "We could never fight through that." "We do not fight," Minho said. "We sneak. And when sneaking fails, we create chaos." He pointed to the system's star. "The star is old, unstable. If we can destabilize it further, we can trigger a collapse." "That would destroy the entire system," Hyun said. "Including us." "Yes," Minho agreed. "But it would also kill the Queen Mind." The remaining team looked at each other. 9 soldiers left from 20. They had known this was a suicide mission, but knowing it intellectually and facing it practically were different things. Taeyang clicked his mandibles. "I did not volunteer to die in bed. Let us make it count," the others agreed. They would finish what they started. The infiltration took 3 days. They used everything Minho had taught them. They moved like ghosts. They killed sentries silently. They avoided patterns that might alert the swarm. And slowly, impossibly, they reached the star's control station. The Ravagers had built infrastructure around the star, harvesting its energy. Minho studied the systems. They were organic, partially alive, but they followed understandable principles. Physics could not be cheated even by monsters. "We overload the collectors," Minho explained. "The star will feed back. Too much energy, too fast. It will collapse into itself, then explode. The blast will sterilize the system." "How long do we have?" Bora asked. "Once we start, maybe an hour," Minho said. "Not enough time to reach minimum safe distance." "Then we do not reach it," Yun said simply. "We complete the mission." They set the charges. Alarms began to wail as the Ravagers detected the sabotage. Drones poured toward their position. The team fought with everything they had. Minho moved like death itself, his rifle never missing. Bora anchored their defense, her weapons blazing. Taeyang sniped from elevated positions, his shots precise and deadly. One by one, the team fell. A Droth soldier named Quan died holding a corridor. A Velar pilot named Sora was torn apart, covering their retreat. The numbers dwindled. 3 left. Then 2. Hyun took a wound that should have killed him but kept fighting through sheer will. "Minho," he gasped. "The charges. Are they set?" "Yes," Minho said. He was covered in ichor and blood, some his own. 30 minutes, and then we won," Hyun said. He collapsed, his body finally giving out. Minho and Bora were alone. Thousands of Ravagers between them and any hope of escape. The star above them was beginning to pulse ominously. "I am glad I met you," Bora said. "You taught me what it means to be a soldier." "You already knew," Minho said. "I just reminded you." The Ravagers came in a final wave. Minho and Bora fought back to back. When Minho's ammunition ran out, he used his rifle as a club. When Bora's weapons failed, she used her claws. They fought like humans. They fought like warriors. Bora fell, her body broken. Minho stood over her, protecting her even in death. He was exhausted, wounded, outnumbered by thousands, but he was still standing. The star began to collapse. Minho looked up at it, at the terrible beauty of a dying sun. He thought about his people, about all the humans who had fought and died before him. He hoped they would be proud. A Ravager ship sat abandoned nearby, its crew dead or fled. Minho made a decision. He ran for it, his body screaming in protest. He reached it as the star's collapse accelerated. The controls were alien but logical. He launched the ship into space as the star exploded behind him. The blast wave caught him, sent him tumbling. Systems failed. Fires erupted, but the ship held together, barely. Minho drifted in the dark alone, watching the system burn. The Queen Mind was dead. The Ravagers would be disorganized. The collective had a chance, and Minho, against all odds, was still alive, for now. The flagship was massive, a city in space holding 20,000 crew members. Minho stood in the observation deck watching the stars move past. He had been awake for 3 days now. 3 days of questions, examinations, and stares. Everyone wanted to see the human. The myth made real. He hated every moment of it. Dr. Isul approached quietly. The Quinn medical officer had been respectful at least. She had not treated him like a specimen or a weapon. Just a patient recovering from long-term cryosleep. Your physical examination results are complete, Isul said, her form glowing soft blue. You are remarkably healthy considering the circumstances. Humans are durable, Minho said without looking at her. We evolved on a death world. Everything on Earth wanted to kill us. We learned to survive. Death world, Isul repeated. That explains much. Your bone density is twice what we would expect. Your muscle fiber is designed for endurance rather than burst strength. Your cardiovascular system is incredibly efficient. We could chase prey for days, Minho said. Run them until they collapsed from exhaustion. Then we would kill them. Persistence hunters, they called us. He finally turned to look at her. Your records must mention this. Humans were well documented before you killed us all. Isul's colors dimmed, a sign of discomfort. The records are incomplete. Much was lost in the transition period. What we have is fragmentary, confusing, convenient, Minho said. Scholar Dai entered the observation deck moving with purpose. I need to interview you properly. There is so much we need to know. Minho wanted to refuse. He wanted to grieve. His entire species was gone, and these beings wanted him to answer questions like he was a database. But what else did he have? His war was over. His people were dead. All that remained was memory. Fine, Minho said. They moved to a private conference room. They activated recording devices while Isul stayed to observe. Yun arrived as well, along with Captain Hana. The Drouth captain looked at Minho with an expression he could not read. Tell us about human military doctrine, Dai began. Minho leaned back in his chair. Where to even start? Humans did not fight the way you do. We could not. We were smaller than most species. Weaker pound for pound. Our technology was often inferior. So we adapted. How? Hyun asked. We made ourselves the scariest thing in the galaxy, Minho said. We fought total war. No civilians. No neutral zones. You attacked us. We attacked everything you valued. Your worlds. Your trade. Your food supply. Your will to fight. We made the cost of war so high that victory became meaningless. Hana's tail moved in a way that suggested disturbance. That is monstrous. That is survival, Minho corrected. When you are outmatched, you make the fight so ugly that your enemy questions whether they really want to win. He looked around the room. The Ravagers are winning because you fight with honor, with rules. They do not care about rules. They care about consumption. You suggest we abandon our principles? Dai asked. I suggest you decide what matters more, Minho said. Your principles or your survival. Isul's form shifted colors. Your psychological profile is concerning. You show signs of what we would call combat dissociation, emotional detachment, acceptance of horror. Every human soldier was like this, Minho said. We called it compartmentalization. You put the bad things in a box. You deal with them later, or you do not and you break, but you do not break in combat. You break after. Did you break? Isul asked gently. Minho was quiet for a long moment. I do not know yet. Ask me again when this is over. Hana stepped forward. The Ravagers have breached the second defensive line. We have weeks at most before they reach the core worlds. Can you help us? Why should I? Minho asked. Your people killed mine. We did not, Hana said. Whatever happened 400 years ago, we had no part in it. The people in this room were not even born then. We are not responsible for the sins of our ancestors. Minho studied her. She was right, logically. But logic and emotion were different things. He wanted to hate them. He wanted to blame them. But they looked desperate, scared. The same way humans must have looked before the end. What do you want from me? Minho asked. Train our soldiers, Hyun said. Teach them to fight like humans. Give us a chance, Minho laughed, but there was pain in it. You want me to turn your people into killers? Into monsters. That is what human training does. If that is what it takes to survive, Hana said, then yes. Minho stood and walked to the viewport. Outside he could see ships moving in formation. Thousands of vessels carrying millions of beings, all of them depending on commanders who did not understand the enemy they faced. All right. Minho said finally. But we do this my way. No committees. No debates. When I give an order, you follow it. Hesitation kills, agreed, Hana said immediately. The training began the next day. Minho selected 50 volunteers from across the fleet, young soldiers mostly, old enough to fight but not so experienced that they would resist new methods. He pushed them harder than they thought possible. Human training was brutal. It assumed you would be tired, hurt, and scared. It taught you to function anyway. Minho made them run until they collapsed, fight until they could barely lift their arms, make decisions while exhausted and in pain. Combat is not fair, Minho told them during one session. You will not be rested. You will not have enough ammunition. Your equipment will fail. Your friends will die. You train for the worst day of your life so when it comes you can still function. Lieutenant Bora was among the volunteers. She had requested it after seeing Minho fight on the station. Now she was questioning that decision as she struggled through another exhaustion drill. Why do we do this? She gasped during a brief rest. What does running until we vomit teach us? It teaches you that your limits are illusions, Minho said. Your body can do far more than your mind thinks. Pain is just information. Fear is just chemistry. You can function through both. He also taught them tactics that horrified their instructors, using enemy bodies as cover, targeting non-combatants to demoralize opponents, scorched earth retreats, psychological warfare, things the collective considered war crimes. These tactics are illegal under the Treaty of Kelvin. A Drouth general objected during a strategy meeting. The Ravagers did not sign your treaty, Minho replied coldly. They do not care about your laws. If you want to survive, you need to accept that war is not a game with referees. Hana supported him, overruling the objections. She understood what others did not. They were losing. Principles were luxuries the dying could not afford. During a private moment, Day asked Minho about human history. How did your species become so effective at war? Minho considered the question. We had no choice. Earth was violent. Our evolution was constant competition. We fought each other for thousands of years before we even left our planet. We perfected war because we had to. It was evolve or die. Do you regret it? Day asked. Being what you are? Minho thought about his friends, all dead now, about his family, gone for centuries, about the humans who had trusted him to survive, to remember them. Every day, Minho said quietly, but regret does not change anything. We were what the universe made us. We did what we had to do. A week into training, the Ravagers attacked a core world. The response fleet engaged them using conventional tactics. They were slaughtered. Millions died. The survivors retreated in chaos. Hana called an emergency meeting. We need a new strategy now. Minho looked at the tactical display. The Ravagers were consolidating, growing stronger. They had found rich feeding grounds and would not stop until everything was consumed. I have a plan, Minho said, but you will not like it. Tell us, Hana demanded. Minho pointed to a location deep in Ravager space. We need to find the Queen Mind, the central intelligence that coordinates the swarm. We kill it, the Ravagers become disorganized. That is suicide, Hyun said. We would never reach it. Not with a fleet, Minho agreed. But with a small team, fast, using guerrilla tactics. We can get through. You want to take the war to them, Hana said slowly. I want to make them afraid, Minho said. Fear is a weapon. Use it right and you win before the battle starts. Hyun looked at the human. This being from a dead race, carrying knowledge of wars they could barely imagine. You really think this can work? Minho met his eyes. It is what humans would do, and humans did not lose wars. We just ran out of humans. The room fell silent. They all understood what he was saying. This mission would cost lives. Maybe all of them. But it was a chance. And chances were all they had left. The research station hung in space like a broken bone. Half of it was dark, its metal skin scarred by centuries of micrometeor impacts. The other half still glowed with faint emergency lights, powered by something that should have died long ago. Hyun's ship approached slowly, scanning for threats. The Ravager fleet was 3 systems away, close enough to be a constant danger. They had maybe 2 hours before the swarm could detect them and respond. Life support is active in the central section, reported Lieutenant Bora, a young Drouth officer on her first deep space assignment. Her voice carried both excitement and fear. Something is still alive in there. Impossible, Hyun muttered. This station is 400 years old at minimum. Day floated near the viewport, his energy form pulsing with colors that suggested intense curiosity. The humans had advanced cryogenic technology. If someone went into stasis, they could theoretically survive for millennia. The ship docked with the station's emergency port. The seal held, surprisingly. Hyun led the team inside, weapons ready. The air was stale but breathable. Emergency strips along the floor provided dim illumination, leading deeper into the facility. They found labs filled with equipment they could not identify. Storage rooms containing supplies that had degraded to dust. Living quarters that looked like they had been abandoned in a hurry. And finally, at the station's core, they found the cryo chamber. It was a large room with a single pod in the center. Frost covered its surface, but through the ice they could see a figure. Roughly humanoid in shape, 2 arms, 2 legs, a head. But the proportions were different from any species Hyun knew. "That is a human," Day whispered, his voice full of awe. "A real human." Bora approached the pod, her scanner active. "The occupant is alive, barely. The systems are failing. Life support will collapse within hours. We should leave it," one of the scouts said. "If we revive it, we do not know what will happen. The humans were dangerous." "The humans are myths," Hyun said, but his conviction wavered. Looking at the pod, at the figure inside, he felt something he had not expected. Recognition. The armor the human wore looked like the fragments in Day's collection. The symbols matched the translated texts. "We must revive him," Day said firmly. "Think of what he could tell us. What he could teach us. Or he could kill us all," the scout replied. Hana's voice crackled over the communication link from the ship. "Decision is yours, Commander. But make it quickly. I am detecting energy signatures moving in our direction." Hyun stared at the pod. They were losing the war. The Ravagers were unstoppable. If there was any chance, any possibility that this human could help, they had to take it, even if it was dangerous, especially because it was dangerous. "Start the revival process," Hyun ordered. Day interfaced with the pod's systems. The controls were old but functional. Slowly, carefully, he began warming the pod. The ice melted away, revealing the human more clearly. He was male, that much was obvious. His skin was tan, his hair black. His face was young but carried lines that suggested he had seen terrible things. The pod hissed open. The human's eyes snapped open and Hyun saw they were dark brown, almost black. For a moment the human simply stared at the ceiling. Then he moved with startling speed. The human rolled out of the pod, landed in a crouch, and assessed the room in a single glance. His hand went to his hip, searching for a weapon that was not there. When he saw Hyun and the others, his expression shifted from confusion to aggression. "Who are you?" The human demanded in a language that the translator struggled with. "Where is my unit? What happened to the mission?" "Calm yourself," Hyun said, raising his hands to show they were empty. "You are safe. We found you in cryosleep." The human's eyes darted between them, taking in their alien features. "Drouth, Quinn, you are collective species." His voice turned cold. "You were supposed to be our allies." "I do not understand," Hyun said. "We are allies. The collective seeks peace." The human laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Peace, right? What year is it?" "Galactic Standard 2425, Day said softly. The human's face went pale. He steadied himself against the pod. 400 years. I have been frozen for 400 years. He looked at them again, and something dangerous entered his expression. "Then you do not remember. You do not know what you did." "What we did?" Bora asked. "You killed us," the human said simply. The collective turned on humanity. "You called us too dangerous, too unpredictable. So you eliminated us. Every colony, every ship, every man, woman, and child." The room fell silent. Hyun felt something twist in his chest. The official record said humans had gone extinct through natural causes. War with an unknown enemy, a plague, the stories varied. But they all agreed it was not the collective's fault. "That is not what our history says," Hyun said carefully. "Of course not," the human replied. "History is written by survivors." He pushed past them, moving toward the exit. "I need to find my people. I need to warn them." "There are no humans left," Day said gently. "You are the last one we know of." The human stopped walking. His shoulders slumped. For a moment, he looked like he might collapse. Then he straightened, and when he turned back to them, his face was blank of emotion. "What is your name?" Hyun asked. "Minho," the human said. "Sergeant Minho, 7th Expeditionary Fleet, Human Coalition Defense Force." He gestured to the station around them. This was a fallback position. We were supposed to hold here until reinforcements arrived. His voice turned bitter. I guess they never came. An alarm blared through the station. Hana's voice came through urgently. Ravagers detected. Multiple contacts. They will be here in minutes. We need to leave, Hyun said. Ravagers? Minho's expression sharpened. Parasitic species? Swarm intelligence? Consume biological matter for reproduction? You know them? Bor asked. We fought them, Minho said. They nearly broke through human space before we pushed them back. If they are here now, that means they have been growing for centuries. He moved quickly to a locker on the wall, entering a code. Inside were weapons. He grabbed a rifle that looked ancient but well-maintained. We do not have time for this, Hyun said. We need to evacuate. Too late, Minho said, checking his weapon with practiced ease. If they detected you, they are already surrounding the station. Running just means dying in space instead of here. The station shuddered. Something had latched onto the hull. Then another impact, and another. The Ravagers were boarding. Get to defensible positions, Minho ordered, his voice taking on a tone of absolute authority. Cover the main corridor. Do not let them flank you. Aim for the central mass. Their limbs will keep moving even if you sever them. Who put you in charge? One of the scouts demanded. Minho looked at him with eyes that had seen wars the scout could not imagine. You want to live? You follow my orders. You want to prove something? Go ahead and die. The scout fell silent. The first Ravager burst through a wall panel. It was a nightmare of chitin and teeth, moving with insect-like speed. The scout raised his weapon, but Minho was faster. He fired 3 rounds, each one hitting precisely where the creature's nerve cluster should be. The Ravager collapsed. Conserve ammunition, Minho said calmly. They will send hundreds before they stop. More Ravagers poured in. The corridor became chaos. The collective soldiers fired wildly, panic affecting their aim. But Minho moved like he was dancing. Every shot counted. Every step placed him where he needed to be. He used the environment, ducking behind cover, using the Ravagers' own mass against them. Hyun watched in amazement. This was what human warriors looked like. Not myths, not legends. Just a soldier doing what he was trained to do. And it was terrifying. Fall back to the ship, Hyun ordered. Fighting retreat. They moved as a unit with Minho covering their withdrawal. When they reached the ship, Bora was wounded and 2 scouts were dead. But they were alive, which seemed impossible minutes before. As the ship detached and jumped away, Hyun looked at Minho. The human sat alone, staring at nothing. His hands shook slightly, the only sign of stress he showed. Thank you, Hyun said. Minho did not respond. He was the last of his kind, awake in a galaxy that had killed his people, and now he had just saved the descendants of his enemies. Hyun wondered what that felt like. The council chamber stretched wide beneath a dome of projected stars. Representatives from a dozen species sat in their designated sections, their voices creating a low hum of debate. Commander Hyun stood at the center platform, his scaled hands gripping the edges of the podium. His red eyes scanned the assembly with barely concealed frustration. The Ravagers have consumed 17 systems in 3 months, Hyun said, his voice cutting through the noise. If we do not act now, they will reach the core worlds within a year. A Velir ambassador named June clicked his mandibles together, the insectoid's way of showing disagreement. We have fortified the border worlds. Our fleets are positioned. What more can be done? Hyun's tail lashed behind him. Fortifications mean nothing to them. They swarm. They consume. They adapt. Traditional warfare will not stop them. In the upper gallery, Scholar Day watched the debate with ancient eyes. The Quinn were beings of pure energy, barely holding a physical form. Day had spent 400 years studying the lost civilizations of the galaxy. He had seen patterns that others missed. The Ravagers reminded him of something from the old records. Something terrible. Perhaps we should consider the old methods, Day's voice whispered through the chamber, carried on waves of thought rather than sound. The assembly fell silent. Many turned to look at the glowing figure in the gallery. The old methods? June asked. You speak of the human legends, no doubt. A ripple of amusement moved through the chamber. Several representatives made sounds that resembled laughter in their respective languages. Hyun's expression hardened. With respect, Scholar Day, we face a real threat. Children's stories will not help us. Day drifted down from the gallery, his form shifting colors as he moved. I have found new evidence. An archive on the fourth moon of Talus. The records there speak of human military tactics, their weapons, their way of war. Fairy tales, a Drouth general called out. The humans are myth. They never existed, or if they did, they were nothing like the stories claim. Day's form flickered with what might have been anger. I have seen the weapons. I have translated their manuals. They were real and they were terrifying. Terrifying enough to go extinct? June clicked his mandibles in amusement. If they were such great warriors, where are they now? The question hung in the air. Dee had no answer for that. The human disappearance remained one of the galaxy's greatest mysteries. 400 years ago, they had simply vanished from all records. Some said they destroyed themselves. Others claimed they had been eliminated by the ancient powers. Most believed they had never been as powerful as the legend suggested. Captain Hana entered the chamber, her movements precise and military. She was Hyun's superior, a Drouth who had earned her rank through countless battles. Her scales were darker than Hyun's, marked with scars from wars long past. The debate is pointless, Hana announced. The Ravagers broke through the Kelvin defense line 2 hours ago. They are moving faster than our projections suggested. The chamber erupted in chaos. Representatives shouted over each other, demanding action, assigning blame, calling for retreats or reinforcements. Hyun felt something cold settle in his chest. The Kelvin line had been their strongest position. If it had fallen so quickly, then the predictions were wrong. They had weeks, not months. We need to evacuate the border colonies, Hyun said to Hana. Already in progress, Hana replied. But we do not have enough ships. Millions will be left behind. Day moved closer to them, his form pulsing with urgency. Let me show you what I found. Please. If there is even a chance that the human methods could help, we must try. Hyun wanted to refuse. He had heard the human stories since childhood. Tales of warriors who could fight for days without rest. Soldiers who would rather die than surrender. Weapons that could crack planets. It all seemed like propaganda. Stories invented to explain ancient wars that no one really understood anymore. But they were losing. The Ravagers were unlike anything the collective had faced before. Perhaps desperate times called for desperate measures, even if those measures were based on legends. Show me, Hyun said. They left the chaos of the council chamber and traveled to Day's research station. The facility orbited a quiet moon, far from the major trade routes. Inside, Day had collected fragments of the past, weapons that no longer functioned, data cores that had degraded over centuries, pieces of armor that seemed too heavy for any known species to wear. Day led them to a central display. He activated it and images appeared in the air, symbols in a language that looked harsh and angular, human writing according to the translations. This is a tactical manual, Day explained. It describes something they called total war. The concept is simple but horrifying. You use every resource. You target not just military installations but supply lines, manufacturing, morale. You make the enemy fear the cost of continuing the fight. Hyun studied the images. This is barbaric. Yes, Day agreed. But it was effective. The humans fought wars against species with superior technology and won through sheer determination and ruthless efficiency. Hana leaned closer to the display. These tactics assume you are willing to accept massive casualties. The humans always were, Day said quietly. They had a saying, victory or death. They meant it literally. A soft alarm chimed through the station. Day moved to a console, his form flickering with concern. I am receiving a signal. It is coming from the dead zone near the border of Ravager space. What kind of signal? Hyun asked. An old frequency. Very old. Day's voice carried a note of disbelief. It matches the human distress codes from the archives. Hyun and Hana exchanged looks. It had to be a malfunction. Some ancient beacon finally dying after centuries of silence. It could not possibly be what it seemed. We should investigate, Hana said. If nothing else, we might find technology we can use. The Ravagers are in that sector, Hyun protested. It would be a dangerous mission. Everything is dangerous now, Hana replied. She turned to Day. Come with us. If we find human technology, we will need your expertise. They prepared a small reconnaissance ship, fast, lightly armed, designed for speed rather than combat. Hyun picked a crew of 5 all-experienced scouts. They would jump in, locate the source of the signal, and jump out before the Ravagers detected them. As they departed, Hyun looked back at the council world. Lights covered its surface, billions of beings living their lives unaware of how close the darkness was. If the legends were true, humans had once protected this galaxy. They had fought and died so that others might live. But the legends also said the humans had been betrayed, that the very species they protected had turned on them. Hyun wondered what they would find at the source of that signal. Probably nothing but ruins and ghosts. But a small part of him hoped for something more. They needed a miracle. Perhaps the humans, even as myths, could provide one.